Welcome back to another exciting and fantastic episode of the Behavior Shift Show, where we dive deep into what it really takes to achieve those big life-changing goals that you have. Today, we're going to talk about something a lot of people don't think about when they're setting those big goals. What do you have to give up in order to get where you want to go?
Yeah, we usually focus on what to add, and that's could be new habits, could be routines, productivity hacks, all sorts of different things. But sometimes it's more about what you actually need to remove. Our time and energy are limited, as you know. So if we're always adding more, something's got to give, especially when it comes to those big life goals. We need to remember that sometimes we need to give some things up to make room for the things that really matter.
Yeah, and life doesn't just give you extra time or energy if it was only that easy. Instead, it's a trade-off, and that's tough because most people don't want to let go of things, me included in that. I don't like letting go of things. But here's the truth. Achieving your biggest life goals isn't just about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing less. And that was an insight I learned from Leidy Klotz, who was a guest on my other podcast, Behavioral Grooves.
For those of you who have not listened to Behavioral Grooves, just a quick plug here. It's really a good deep dive into human behavior with some fantastic guests. Can't recommend it enough. A little plug for Kurt there.
Oh, thank you, Ben. That's very kind of you. And I like to think about Behavior Grooves as a gateway podcast into behavioral science. That's this gateway drug, right? Okay, we digress. We were talking about giving things up to achieve more, Ben. So help me understand that a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So think about this idea of subtraction like cleaning out your closet. Great analogy. You can't just keep stuffing new clothes in there without making more room. Eventually, you're going to run out of space. You're not going to be able to find things. Which means that at some point, you're going to have to decide what's worth keeping and what you need to get rid of to make that space work for you.
Right. And that's a great analogy. And when it comes to life goals, you have to look at your time, your energy, your focus, all of which are limited resources. So if you're trying to achieve something big, you got to ask yourself this question. What am I willing to sacrifice or to give up to make this happen? And that's a question too many people skip. We set a goal, especially those big keystone goals, but we don't always stop to think about the trade offs. And make no mistake, there will be trade offs, even for goals that seem small at first.
And to add to that, these trade offs aren't always obvious. A lot of the time, they're opportunity costs. Think about a situation where your goal is to hit the gym 3 or 4 times a week. You might have to give up sleep or maybe study time to make that happen. And there could be consequences associated with it. That could mean that you have less energy or maybe you fall behind in school because of those sacrifices.
Okay, so say you're gunning for a new promotion at work. You might need to sacrifice time with your family or your friends and put those extra hours in to get that work done, right? Now, that could lead to resentment or a strained relationship over time. And those costs aren't always obvious up front, but they're real.
And remember that what we're giving up isn't always something bad. It can actually be something good, something that we like and enjoy. And that's actually really, really hard. So it has to be worth the sacrifice.
Yeah. So it's important to understand that what you need to give up, right? Understand what that is, and then ask yourself if you're okay with that. Are you fundamentally comfortable with that trade off? Because if you're serious about your keystone goal, you need to be. You
You
need to
really
be.
do. And it's not just about the immediate sacrifice. You have to think both short term and long term. Often we think short term and forget about those future costs. What am I giving up right now, like time with family or a little extra sleep? And what are the potential long term implications of that? For instance, could this hurt my relationship with my kids or could it affect my health down the road if I go through with it?
And that's the key, knowing the trade off, if the trade off is worth it. Some sacrifices might not be worth it, but others, well, maybe they will be, right? The key is to weigh those costs carefully. Not every goal is worth the price, and it's okay to decide that some sacrifices aren't worth making. So every choice has a cost. And if you're going to be giving up is something that's less valuable than what you're aiming for, well, then that's when you know you're on the right track, even when what you are giving up is good.
It's all about those intentional trade offs. Giving up something good for something better, that's okay. but you got to be clear about what you really want and what is just noise and distraction for you.
So before you go and add more to your plate, ask yourself this: what do I need to take off of that plate? What's standing in the way of where I want to go? Because at the end of the day, success isn't just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most and letting go of what doesn't.
It really is. And so, thank you everybody for joining us today. If you're feeling like your goals need a little more focus and a little less distraction, sit down and think about what you can give up to make space for the things that truly matter. And remember, sometimes the biggest gains actually come from letting go. Until next time, keep on shifting.